Hey, this is Pam Perry, and today is a shop talk. Two PR colleagues talking shop, chopping it up about PR. So Candice Nicole PR, who is fabulous. If you don't know her, you are in for a treat. So right after this, we're going to bring up Candice Nicole.
Welcome to the Get Out There and Get Known podcast. Join Pam Perry, veteran PR strategist, Emmy award-winning producer and publisher of Speakers Magazine, who will show you how to crack the code in getting out there to get known. Each week, she either interviews her media friends, PR colleagues, or she just goes solo, offering you strategies on publicity, publishing, and platform building. So listen up to hear how to get booked on media places and on superstar stages. Now, here's your host, Pam Perry.
So who is Candice Nicole? Let me just tell you a little bit about Candice Nicole. She is an award-winning publicist who graduated from Morgan State University, HBCU in the house, and she's a full-time entrepreneur for the last 14 years, owner of Candice Nicole PR. She's the creator of Women Who Hustle Network, which is a space for women to hone their hustle and their balance, and also Respect the Publicist, which is a network of publicists that also welcomes journalists, branding, marketing, social media professionals. Candice is an out-of-the-box thinker, a game changer, and on a mission to inspire. But more than that, she has had her clients everywhere, like from Essence to Forbes to Because of Them We Can to the Today Show. But she also is a speaker, and she has an ebook called The PR Puzzle. And she also has another book called Be Your Glow Up, 34 Affirmations to Inspire. She's a contributor to the book Speak Up, which we are a part of that. Brian Oles, shout out to Brian Oles, another Morgan State grad with Candice. Speak Up, the ultimate guide to dominate in the speaking industry. And she also has a podcast as well. She's a podcast host of the Virtual Publicist podcast and the Women Who Hustle podcast. She's busy, and she's been awarded numerous titles and awards. And some of the things that she's been awarded was the Ophir Dukes Millennial Excellence in PR. I loved Ophir Dukes, bless his soul. And also the Tenacity Award from Shift 360 Women in Business. And she also was recognized by the U.S. Black Chamber of Commerce and also Inc. as an emerging leader in Black business and one of the top 25 African American PR millennials by the Huffington Post. And also last year together, we are always in these things together, but one of the top 100 PR influencers to follow by BuzzSumo. And she is hailing from Washington, D.C., but she's now a resident of Charlotte, North Carolina. So there we go, Candice Nicole. Hey!
Hello. When you were reading my bio, I was like, girl.
You do. You do a lot.
I was like, you have to update it, but you do a lot. So
you do a lot. I welcome you. One of the things, I'm gonna switch this over this way, okay, so that I can let people know like a little bit more about you and you can see your full thing there. But I am so glad that you're here. So one of the first things I want to say is Respect the Publicist is really how I first learned about you. Okay. And I don't know how long that's been around, but Respect the Publicist was like so cool because it felt like, you know, you were with those guys because kind of like as a solopreneur, a boutique PR firm, you don't really have like a whole agency, even though I've worked for an agency before. But when you are out here on your own, I've been doing it 20 years. You've been doing it like 13, 14 years. You just
kind of my 15.
Yes, I figured it was probably close to 15. Yeah. And I said, I love this. So tell me how it came about and how you started Respect the Publicist, a Facebook group for right now, correct?
Yeah. So it actually, I started Respect the Publicist, just like that saying, of course, started as a hashtag in 2014.
Oh.
Yeah. Because
this is a hashtag.
Yeah, of course, because we're about to do some shifting, like growing the brand. I had to do some research about when did we start and, you know, and I'm like, I saw something where I posted on the IG account, what was a totally different logo in 2017. And it said, I started it in 2014. And I'm like, girl, and now it's, 2022. But really, it came out of, I would say, frustration, right? Of where I felt like individuals were not respecting the publicists. We were the first to get thrown under the bus, first to be removed from teams, the first to, well, I thought you were supposed to do XYZ, right? And I'm like, no, hashtag respect the publicists. Like, we know what we're doing, but also it was to encourage publicists to want to respect themselves.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And respect other publicists, because, there's sometimes some, I would say, of what I've seen, some catty, just messy moments that I've seen in the space of PR. And I'm like, why are we doing this? It's enough money, to go around. So it started from like a frustration, but then of course wanting to encourage individuals to respect the publicists.
I love that. So one of the things I always have whenever someone, Candice, says, I tried another publicist and they didn't work, or they'll say, whatever, and I usually listen, and I said, well, did they do A, B, and C? Typical, did they write a release? Did they find a hook? Do they do some pitches? And they say yes. And I said, okay. Then part of it is either that person doesn't understand PR, they didn't know it, or the clients, just their expectations were out of whack. Exactly. So I usually try to side with the publicist, because I know how hard publicity can be, and people's expectations are always well, I should be on, the Today Show by now. And it's been 2 weeks or something like that. So I usually side with that. But for the most part, give people the process of, if they are a new client, say they are not an A-lister, but say, an A-lister, B-lister, or C-lister. So say they're a B-lister. They have some traction. They have a little bit of brand. They have clarity. That's the main thing. And they have some notoriety in their local area. What would be, I guess you would say, the expectation of where they could probably go and how long? And I really want people to kind of get a gauge. And I know it just depends on what it is and the timing. It's so many variables. So even talk about the variables. Yeah. Variables of what would happen.
Yeah. So it's always a lot of moving parts with clients. I would say first, they have to have a vision. No, let me back it up. They have to first understand, have knowledge of what is the purpose of hiring a publicist or a PR agency, right? Some people are at the point, depending on your budget, where you need a PR agency. You need a certain type of support, right? But some other individuals, you still just may need a solo publicist, just a solo individual that is working with you. The pricing will be different, right? So, you have to first figure out, have knowledge, get on Google, get on Google University, and just the basics. So you just know. Now, everyone will have a different, definition about PR, how it works, but at least you have just the basics, right? Of what you need, need to know. And then, of course, develop questions, be a part of the process when you're looking, to hire someone, and also be open. That's the thing. So it's great that people know you locally, but is your vision to be known nationally, internationally? And keep in mind that takes time, right?
We're talking time like a month, 2 months, a quarter, 3 quarters.
Okay. Well, let me say this. It depends on the story angle.
Yes.
If they're coming in at a certain time and what they're talking about makes sense, it's like a hot topic, then perhaps maybe within 60, 90 days, you may start to get, a lot of traction. It depends, right? Every client is different. This is not a one size fits all at all. But I would say it definitely makes sense if they keep in mind 6 months.
Yeah.
At least 6 months. And if you are someone that has never engaged with the media, when you are hiring your publicist or your PR agency, they need to make sure that, what does your website look like? What does your social look like?
What do your photos look like?
Yeah, no. What do your photos look like? Do you have a logo or anything? What are your brand colors? Because you're saying that you want to be in Wall Street Journal, but if Wall Street Journal actually does want to talk to you after, where can we send people? Oh, well, they can go to my social media. Well, your social media is trash. It doesn't look good. It's not a great reflection of you, of this brand that you're portraying.
Ooh.
You don't even have a website you can send them to. You know what I mean? So they
I
have
know
to
exactly what you
understand.
mean. I just had this conversation with someone like last week. It's like you were in a major publication, Black Enterprise, and you were sending people to Instagram. And
That,
then from Instagram, that link to the website sent them somewhere else.
see,
I'm like, why are you bouncing the traffic that you're getting all around? I'm like,
exactly,
oh my God, do they not know? And so
exactly.
this is part of Candice Nicole. Part of why I'm doing this podcast is one, to help other people because they don't know. They didn't study PR and all that kind of stuff. But part of it is therapy for me because just talking it through to someone is like, girl, yeah, like really? Like
It's a lot. And I'll say this. If someone say does not have the budget to hire someone, still seek out a PR professional to consult. You just have to execute on your own, but you still want to, because you don't have any knowledge of the industry. So you want to bring on someone who can consult with you and provide you some type of guidance.
at least.
You know, I want people to be open to that as well.
Yes. Alicia said, she said, this is very helpful information. Thank you, Dr. Perry and Candice.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Alicia.
Let's get out of this.
Things. The best clients that we have are the most informed clients about the industry. That's why we teach. That's why she does her books. That's why I do the blog. That's why I have the Ready, Set, Go Speak membership. When you have the book, what's the first book? The PR Puzzle. So when you wrote the PR Puzzle, was it so that you wouldn't keep saying the same thing?
Yeah, because I said I have to break it down for people. Let me give you the 7 pieces of the puzzle, just very basic. You know what I mean? Honestly, because you know they're not in the PR industry, right? And I know that. So, but I want to equip them. I want to encourage individuals that you should want to learn about whoever you're looking to hire. If you're looking for a new accountant or a new whatever, you should at the very basic know what their role is supposed to do.
Yes.
Right? What it's supposed to be like, you know, in your space. It really gets me when individuals will reach out. Hi, yes. So I think I need a publicist. What exactly do you do? Like, you don't need our agency.
Right. Yeah.
You don't need our agency.
Even know. And one of the things that people think that a publicist is sales. So publicity is not sales. It will lead to sales. But if I am, say, the publicist for your book, I'm not responsible for selling the book. I'm responsible for getting you PR. Yes. The sales of the book depends on so many other factors. One, like you said, the website, the cover of the book, the timing of it and all that, the sales of the book. But getting it out there and getting known, that's the role of the publicist. That's what we can help you do. Yep. The other part, we're not your salespeople. And we're not your bookers either, like in terms of getting you paid speaking gigs. That's a speaking agency, which is different from getting publicity. Primarily, we're working with the media. That's what we're working with. We're working with the media. And that's the part where you said something. I want you to explain it. You said if it's a hot topic. So explain hot topics, because you're a news junkie. I mean, obviously you were in journalism. So explain a hot topic to people of what is hot, because you'll be surprised how people don't know anything in the news going on.
Yeah. So of course, hot topic right now is, COVID. Hot topic is just the workplace, the environment of the workplace, the future of work.
The big quit.
Those are very hot topics. So many people. The Great Resignation.
Yes. The big quit.
That is going on right now. Yeah. They are quitting and they are not having a backup. Why? Because they're tired of whatever is going on in their situation, because they're already frustrated because of this, we're now going into our junior year with, COVID, right? So they're frustrated. And there's still just in some companies, I would say, this lack of people care. And so people are frustrated and they're like, yeah, no, I'm not doing it. There has to be another way. I'm going to figure it out. I'm not doing it. So they're betting on themselves more.
I love that.
So those are hot topics. I'll take it a little bit more further. Now, this happened a few years ago when Rob Kardashian, when he put out that image of China, his child's mother, and it was basically in California. It's like looked upon as revenge porn. And so let's say that, I don't know, that happened on Saturday or Sunday when the news broke. The very next day, I saw an entertainment lawyer on Fox 5 DC on Monday talking about it.
Revenge porn.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You may also want to call it like newsjacking as well.
Yeah.
So, therefore, if they are talking about, in 20 years, Wall Street went down X amount, like in 2 minutes, then if you are an investor, if you are in that space, you need to call the news desk and say, "Hey, I just saw the news. Are you guys working on a segment? I'm actually an expert in the field of boom, 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 boom." Right?
Yeah.
So whatever field you're in, if you see something that is a hot topic, breaking news that just came in,
jump on it.
Call the assignment desk.
Yes.
I'll share with you that really when you're looking at any show, let's just talk about news, it is, I would say, 98% of the time, it is a producer that you need to get in contact with that is going to yay or nay you coming on. There's some situations, depending upon the relationship of where the talent actually can yay or nay their guests, but it's usually the producer. If you cannot get in contact with the producer, call the assignment desk. There's always someone at the assignment desk, y'all. Always someone at the assignment. Yeah. I mean, 24 hours, like it's the news. Okay, you call them at 2:37 in the morning, someone's going to pick up the phone at the assignment desk. And you have that conversation with them. See if they would, connect you with the individual. It boils down to how bad do you want it? How bad do
you want it?
Do you want to insert your voice into the marketplace because you feel that your voice is needed? You feel like your voice is missing. So if they're giving you the runaround and say, "Oh, well, you can contact this person," and not giving you an email address. If they say, "Well, they're going to be in at 4:30 in the morning," well, maybe you should set your alarm at 4:30 in the morning because they're going to be in the studio, perhaps like doing some work, and maybe they'll be there to actually answer your phone call, right?
It is. Publicists have it a way where not only like starting out, obviously about 15 years ago, social media wasn't as hot or as big part of the PR plan as it is now. Obviously, it's equal. Basically, before it was like, because a lot of my publicist friends were like, "Oh, you're all on." This is at the beginning. "Oh, you're always on that Facebook, or you're always on these different social media sites. What is that about?" And it's like, it's going to be a thing because it's like direct access to the audience. So anyway, so now people have this part of the social media that they can do, as well as the publicist also has to manage the media as well as the social media and also the digital marketing part of it. So have you found over the last few years that the media has been easier to receptive to stories because of social media, or because they feel so overwhelmed now that they're less receptive in terms of someone just new starting out in media relations? I know you can reach them straight on Twitter, but also too, everybody else can reach them straight on Twitter. So what have you found? Has it been like a good, bad? What's
It's both. It's both. It's now to the point where it says, if someone says, "Well, I can't find this information," let's say you don't have a journalist database that you use. Look, you're just not researching, okay? Because these directors of shows, producers, even the talent themselves, the reporters, they're like, if you have tips, send it here. Or if you have an idea,
they're right in the link in bio, and they're right. Sometimes they're right in the Twitter bio. If you have tips, send them here.
There's just no excuse, right? But like you said, in the same breath, it's open for a lot of individuals when they put their email out there. And so you're going against many other individuals, right? Because now they know they are using social media to their benefit, these journalists. And all they have to do is put a tweet, says that, "Hey, we're looking for Black women ages, 30 to 40 that started a new business," or what. They're going to get so many pitches. It's ridiculous. So many people are going to retweet it. And you're like, you know what? Well, okay, how am I going to submit my story? What's going to make my story, stick out from everyone else, because you're all these different retweets. So it's both.
Yeah, it is. And really the main thing is how to stand out. And that's where you really have to look at the foundational pieces, getting a coach, knowing, if you have a Together One Sheet website, whether you have a speaking reel, whether you have B-roll. I mean, all those things, because the journalists, if they have an average of, I don't know, 300 or 400 emails a day, pitches, right? they're looking for ways to say no more than yes, because they only have a
Absolutely.
limited space.
Yeah.
So what is going to, if you have something that's off, they'll be like, no, and you're in the trash, and you didn't even talk to them yet. So
Yeah.
it's so important. So when you do make the pitch, relationships are important. One of the things I always tell them, Candice, is that when you are deciding that you have a story that you want to pitch, and this is an individual, if they have a story they want to pitch, to really follow the journalist for a while, not follow them personally, but online,
Yeah.
on Twitter, to see what kind of things that they are tweeting about, what their LinkedIn is, their Instagram, to see where their interests are. And then, make it a point. I call it like double dutch. The right time when to jump in, because you see that they tweeted about something, that they have an interest in that. And if it's an alignment, then you are helpful to them. I don't want people to feel like, oh my God, PR is just so hard. Really, it's part of the process of marketing, but it also is helping out the journalist. You're helping out the journalist if it's in alignment. And so that's why it's really helpful to know the news cycles, so that you can piggyback or newsjack on a story. Timing of January, everyone is into weight loss and all that kind of stuff. If you have anything that has to do with health, obviously that's a good time. But Black History Month is coming up too. So don't think like, oh my goodness, I'm going to pitch something in February. No, you pitch it probably in December or January if you want to do television and
Right now.
Yeah, right now.
If you're listening right now, if you have a Black History, right now, make your business this evening to get your pitch out.
Yes, and I will say this though, because we both use them a lot. BlackPR.com and then BlackPRnews.com. Both of the black publications, or the Black news wires, they're filled for February. So pretty much like you kind of miss the window unless you have a publicist that can kind of help you get in there. But for the most part, they're filled because there's only so many slots that they can send out in a day. And all of February is filled. So, if you're a woman, Black woman, start working on Women's History Month. Maybe that will be your thing, but don't wait. You snooze, you lose. I mean, that's like the main
Absolutely.
thing. So was your PR was always the main thing that you wanted to do, or was it journalism? Was it acting? Because I know at the beginning you did a lot of entertainment as well. So kind of tell us where you kind of fell into the PR field.
Yeah, so with PR, it was always PR that once I changed my major, I actually was a photographic major, photographic media major at Morgan. I wanted to be a celebrity photographer. Niche was going to be black and white photography. I love photography. But of course, as you know, in college, you have all these prerequisites. And I was like, just put me in, the darkroom. Like, I don't need to do anything else. Like, this is what I want to do. And I love the arts, but I'm not the best drawer and all this. I was like, no. And fine arts was across campus. You were just really kind of like far removed. I was like, this is not it. And so after the first semester, went to the catalog and said, okay, let's do communications. I didn't want to do all the math that they require, like in business, for like, marketing or anything like that. I was like, oh, cool. Math 109 for communications. That's what we're going to do. And I narrowed it down to public relations because I did do some quick research, and I saw that there's so many different industries like that you can put use PR in, right? So you have the entertainment, you have sports, you have hospitality, in politics it's public affairs, basically it's the same thing, different language. Literary work. I mean, it's so much of where individuals need PR. And so I said, well, this is great. I won't feel like I'm pigeonholed if I say I want to do broadcast journalism. At this time, this was 2002 that I'm making this decision. I fully know, y'all, that if you come in as a bio major, you could be running a tech company right now. That's totally fine. But at my age where I was in 2002, I was looking at broadcast journalism as, no, it's just going to keep me there. And I want to be able to go to, different industries. So that's how I ended up in PR. But it ended up just becoming my passion. I've always loved stories. PR at the end of the day is storytelling. And I love to read books, and I always wonder, that's interesting. So you went from here to here. So tell me about that.
That's the
People,
curiosity of a journalist. That's true. That is part of it. It's like,
and
yeah.
that's the thing. It's like I didn't want to do anything in journalism. I was do PR and tell the stories, but people meet. They're so fascinated with, let's say, Jennifer Lopez. I still want to know, but tell me before you became the fly girl. I'm taking it
Mm-hmm.
way back.
Mm-hmm.
When you became
Mm-hmm.
that fly girl on In Living Color, what was your journey like? That's where I'm more intrigued, right? And then, of
Mm-hmm.
course, we can go on to your fame and how you've been able to sustain and, scale and make those different decisions. But what happened before
Mm-hmm.
you
That's
decided
the
to,
story.
you know what
That
I
is
mean?
the story.
That's the story, because that is where her character was built, that has sustained her throughout all of these, different facets of her life.
Yeah. And one of the things about PR that I really enjoy, that you work with print, magazines and
Yeah.
newspapers, you work with television, we work with radio and podcasts,
Mhm.
different genres of the media, which I enjoy all of them. I've worked in all of them, but it was like if I had to pick one, it's like I couldn't. It's like, so
Mhm.
all of them are now. Most of the journalists now are multimedia journalists anyway, but it's just a PR person would work and has to know the language of each particular one. Even though
Exactly.
they may specialize in like maybe broadcast, but a publicist will have to know
Mhm.
the areas for each different one. So I just wanted people to really understand what it really takes to get PR. It does take a good story. It takes timing. It takes, if you don't hire a publicist, it does really benefit you to know the industry, to know the terms, because if you do want to hire a publicist, you would know whether that publicist is the right one for you,
Yes.
and not get taken. I mean, I just had someone who just says, this publicist said they can do this A, B, and C, and I'm like, that's not right. But how
We
would they
cannot
know?
we cannot guarantee anything. The
Yeah.
news cycle, y'all, we were just talking about the news cycle, it changes all the time. We
Yes.
cannot guarantee. And just because we have connections at these publications, their beat may be different. Yeah, I know people at Essence, but they're not talking about you opening up your new restaurant. They're
Right.
talking about beauty. Now,
Right.
maybe they can you know, give it a nice warm introduction with me and someone who could maybe serve you. But it doesn't mean just because we've had clients, in essence, that
Then
means that
you
is
gonna
going
be
to
there.
be for you.
Right.
And then let's dig a little deeper. Are you even ready for that type of exposure? That's
Exactly.
another thing that I need people to stop with the unrealistic expectations. Because here's the thing, you end up on a black enterprise and it goes viral. You never know.
Hmm.
We can't guarantee viral, but let's say people just fall in love with your story and they're like, wow, this is great, like Tiffany is amazing, and you're just getting contact. Are you ready for that? You have to ask yourself, is your website good for all the traffic that may go there? It's all these different things. When we had our show, this real life, when we had our not our show when we had our client on the Today Show, excuse me, months ago. I think that was like in the fall, or maybe it was like summer 2021. We were preparing. Now it was a process. It was maybe it's like over 100 emails, okay, that went back and forth with the producer, us, and just organizing everything,
Hmm.
making sure they get all the stuff for the story and the recording, the transcript. I mean, all of these different things. And then we're like, well, okay, yeah, client, get with your webmaster, make sure that your site can withstand the possibility of these hundreds or thousands of people that may get on your website once they see you on the Today Show,
Yes.
right? So it's like it has to be a strategy there, you guys. Has to be a strategy there, and you have to remove. We're not saying stop thinking big, but be realistic.
Hmm. Hmm.
Just
Yeah.
be very, very realistic with,
And I tell people, I said, how never snub small media,
no,
never snub the local papers, never snub the community papers, the local
podcast.
radio, any podcast. I said, because you never know where they may end up. They
Yep.
may start out at a small community television station, and next thing you know, they're working for OWN. So they could remember when you snubbed them, maybe you booked with them on the radio station or the television
Mhm.
station, and then you didn't show up because you said, what difference does it make? And then
Mhm.
one day they remember that because you left them in a lurch.
Yep.
And then now they're working at OWN or they're working at CNN and you did that. And so I always tell people kindness is always the currency, making sure that you are nice to everyone, respect everyone, respect the publicists, respect the
Mhm.
media, value them
Mhm.
all, and know that they're not in business to make you rich and famous. The
Thank you.
media is in business to tell stories, to inform their audiences. And so
Mhm.
the more you help them with that, the more PR you will get. It's
Mhm.
really that simple. And
Yep.
being interesting and being entertained, but having your foundation together
Mhm.
is really important. I'm
Mhm.
telling you, it's probably really important just in business sense. I'm not a business coach, but I find myself doing more and more business coaching as I try to tell people about PR, how that works. And it's like,
Yeah.
but your business part needs, I'm not in your business, but I am helping you with your PR. But this part I know you need to get done. So
Exactly.
yes, yes.
I
So
understand.
Candice, Cantina? Yeah, Cantina. She says, awesome advice. Thank you, Cantina. And then Kirby, he said, yes, he said, that's
Yeah.
so true. He said the impact kind. That's true. It's like,
Mhm.
okay. And
Mhm.
so the last question I just want to ask you, if you had, you wrote a inspirational book
Mhm.
as well. You wrote the PR, um, not recipe, but the PR,
Oh, the PR puzzle.
the PR puzzle. You
Mhm.
wrote that one. That's kind of like the business book. And then tell us about the other book too, as well, because people need
So
inspiration.
that was really that I did that when I turned 34, actually. And I sold it like on my birthday
Ah,
exclusively, I want to say. Yeah, that's why I called it. What is like 34
inform- yeah,
or
the affirmations.
yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, I turned 34 and I said, you know what? Because I think I was just doing a lot of sharing, inspiring individuals.
Yes.
I think naturally I do that just to inspire, individuals, to
People need
dream
it.
big, want more,
Yes.
and everything. So that's where that came from. I had turned 34, so that's why it's like the
I
34
love it.
affirmations, like a
I
glow up.
love it. And so, and one of the things that I always say we're a publicist and not a therapist, but a lot of times we do a little bit of therapy because so many times people get beat up in their business and they come to the publicist and we're kind of like their person to really kind of lift them up and
Yeah.
affirm them. And so I just saw that when you did that, I said, that's probably what you do with your clients as well, because we're working, we're doing the grind and we're doing this. And then we look back and they may be on the ground. It's
Hmm.
like, okay, come on, we can do this. It's like, I know you're nervous, but you're going to do great on the show. I know you can do it.
Yes,
It's like,
we become their cheerleader. And that's why I always stress to individuals that it is more than a media interview. When you are looking to invest in a publicist or a PR agency, yes, your goal is because you want more visibility, right? PR equals visibility. Marketing, those are like your leads, like your sales, right? Because
mhm,
I know we were talking about that before. So just remember that, you guys. Like PR equals visibility, marketing equals sales. That's
yes.
a whole other different conversation. But going back to being the cheerleader of your client, that happens a lot of the times. They're leaning on you for for that support, and it's more than a media interview. And all the publicists who are tuned in as well, I want you to dig deeper into that. You bring so much more value to the table than just sending the email to the client saying that, hey, Wall Street Journal is interested in hearing your story. That's great, but there's so much else that we bring to the table, because you should always be looking at everything through the lens like of visibility. If
Mhm,
it's like a partnership, an endorsement, or just getting them in a space of where they can chat with someone and meet, like what
yes.
does that lead to, right? So that's why
Connections.
we want to know what your business goals are at the end of the day, so then we can start working backwards. If I know that, well, actually, I want to have my own crayon. Okay, so how are we aligning you and going to position you to where maybe Crayola would be interested in chatting with you? What are the stories that we are now going to craft? So it's like, this onion, and you're peeling back all these different, layers,
Mhm.
of it. So, just communicate with the individuals that you're hiring in the PR space. Ask the questions. You're well within your right to ask the questions. But also just keep in mind that it's more than a media interview.
Yes, it is. It is more than it. It's connections. It is really. It's all about connections, and the whole thing about being kind,
Mhm.
being authentically you. Things will happen. Things that are lined up for you will happen, and so the
Mhm.
publicist is there to help facilitate that. But you have to be honest with them. Tell them your real goals.
Yep.
Tell us a lot of everything. I mean, we're like your confidants. So
Mhm.
we're your confidants, and
Yeah.
then we can introduce you to not only media but other people as well that aligns with the larger business goals, and
Mhm.
that is it. I heard this thing, Candice, the other day. It was Issa Rae. It was about 7 years ago. Paul Brunson was actually interviewing her, and
Mhm.
he asked Issa what was her PR strategy. She says, I really didn't have one. She says, I was
Mhm.
just putting my stuff out there on Facebook. And then he says, okay, now you're kind of like, this was 7 years ago. He says, so now where are you now? She says, what is your team like? You have a team of 25. She says, I have a business development person. I have a virtual assistant, my administrative assistant. I have a producer, an editor, and she says a publicist. She says, without those people, I would not be anywhere. And I was like,
Mhm.
yes. I said, she
Yeah,
has a
I love it.
publicist. Yes.
I
I was like,
love when people like
that's it. I was
acknowledge
like,
us.
Issa Rae was smart enough to do that. And she went to Stanford, right? So she came from Stanford to New York, and she was just doing these YouTube videos, but she knew part of the core team was part of that publicist, business development manager, which
Right.
is different from the publicist.
Mhm.
So that was one of the things. So I was like, oh, I just love her anyway. I just like she was.
We are a compliment.
Mm-hmm.
We
This,
are a compliment. Your publicist or your PR agency, look at them as they're going to complement what you are already doing. They're going to
yeah.
complement what you are looking to do. That's why you have to have, the trust there.
So this is the last question from Kenny. Kenny Lyles asks, how do you determine who to choose as your PR rep, and what are the good things to look for? So you can answer it and I can answer it. I was just want to answer really, really quick for Kenny.
Yeah.
One of the things, depending on your industry, Kenny, you want to look for a publicist who's been in the same industry, not someone who maybe your competitor worked with, but in the same industry. So if you don't look for the PR person for Coca-Cola in your Pepsi. Okay, that's a conflict. But
Mhm.
someone who has in that same industry, because they would have a lot of the same contacts. So what Candice was saying about Essence, maybe someone who works with a lot of beauty products, that will be good. There's someone who works with authors, that will be good, because they would have a lot of the contacts maybe in the publishing industry, or Publishers Weekly, things like that. So that's one thing you want to look for sure, is someone who is in the industry, if it's business to business and that kind of thing. And so what you want to look for, Candice, you can kind of answer that question, what kind of things they should look for when they're looking for a PR rep.
So I think you have to think about, what you're seeking, from that individual. Um, does your energy match? I'm really big on energy, right? I'm not going to bring on just a client who I feel is very bland. I'm very bubbly,
Mm-hmm.
and so I want to feel like I can actually communicate, with the client, believe in their story. So you want to ask questions, right? You want to ask questions. Yes, look them up, ask around if people may know their work or anything of the sort.
Please
Um,
ask around, Kenny. Please
yeah,
don't let the person just name drop.
yeah, no,
Ask them, the person who they name drop, ask the person whose name they dropped, right?
yeah,
Because a lot
exactly.
of times people will say, well, yeah, I know such and such. I know Candice Nicole. And then maybe Candice just knows me on Twitter. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, she
Yeah,
don't, and
that's
then
a
it's
real
like,
thing.
no, well, she don't really know Pam. So that was, so you really want to do due diligence in terms of that. Yeah.
Absolutely. And also look at what their beliefs are. Like, what are their morals? Like,
Yes.
if do you want to, I'll say this, I do not want any clients on the roster of Candice Nicole PR that are not believers.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And there's a way that I can figure out if you're a believer or not.
Yeah.
There's certain things that I may say. I'm going to listen to how you're responding. Or
Mm-hmm,
when you're talking to me, I'm going to listen to how you explain your journey to me, right?
mm-hmm,
I
mm-hmm.
don't want that, that energy here. So that's what I mean, asking those questions, look at the work that they are doing, get on their social media, get on the website. But is this a person that you would like to align yourself with,
Yeah.
right? Because here's the thing, you hire our agency, as we are representing you serve as a representation of CNPR.
Mm,
So look
that's
at
true.
yourself and then look at who you're looking to hire and say, is that a great representation of myself? do I see myself in them? Like, ask yourself those questions, and that'll, go with your intuition. And then I believe that you will be fine. I believe at the end of the day, you will know, all right, let's take the leap and let's make the hire.
Right. Yeah. And so some of the things that you look for, obviously, is like you want to ask them where they have had some success. Obviously, they'll tell you their success stories. But for the most part, you'll know in your gut if it's a right fit for you. And then also, too, if the publicists themselves, if they say, if someone comes to me and say, hey, I want you to work on, I don't know, A, B, and C, I will say, I really don't do that, but I know another publicist said that's really their jam. Okay. And that's what we do as publicists. It's like, this may not be for me. I can refer it because that's more their jam. That's their industry that they really swim in. That's what they do. And then that comes back to us. It's like, well, you know what? You need to go to Pam because she works with speakers and authors. That's her main thing that she really does. She's been doing this. And then maybe this person, they work with beauty brands, and this person works with. So you have to know who works with what, but the publicists know who, from your networking group, from respective publicists, we know who does what, and we help and support each other. That's why I really, really, love that group as well. And so anybody can join it. It's a Facebook group, Respect the Publicists. You can join it if you want to add value to the group. That's one of the things. We support each other. Don't go in there and just like, oh, I'm just going to take from this group, but add value. And then the other thing is make sure that you get Candice's ebooks as well. She's got 2 of them, the PR Puzzle and then the other book as well, Book of Affirmations. So Candice, thank you so much for joining. Kenny, hopefully that helped.
Yes, and this was great. This was fun. This was great. Finally, my schedule has been like crazy. But this was great. I really enjoyed the conversation.
And I love your background. For those who are watching the video podcast, she has these beautiful flowers in the background, and it's just gorgeous. So you could tell that when you wanted to, the first thing I would say, God never wastes anything. So when you were at Morgan and you went to major in visual photography, part of that, what you have right now looks like it's a set for a photo shoot, right?
It's very, very on purpose.
That's just like the natural part of what you wanted to do, right? It's just
whole
like
entire wall is the rose, installation. So
I love it. So it is beautiful. Thank you so much today. And again, people who want to get in touch with you, I put it up there again. It's CandiceNicolePR.com. So CandiceNicolePR.com. So definitely have a conversation with her, get her books or whatever, support her on Twitter and all that kind of stuff. And we will talk with you later. But thank you so much. I just really, really enjoyed talking with you. Like I said, I couldn't wait. I was like, okay, whenever you're ready, we're going to do this.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Fun. So thank you so much.
All righty. And I am Pam Perry. Thank you so much for joining the PR podcast here today. Get out there, get known. So I will talk with you all later, and make sure that you visit ReadySetGoSpeak.com, and then also share, like, subscribe, and review this podcast. Alrighty, till next time. God bless.
You've been listening to the Get Out There and Get Known podcast, brought to you by PamPerryPR.com, where you'll get insider tips on how to build your platform, pitch the media, and promote yourself with confidence. Head over to PamPerryPR.com and get the exclusive video training on the 7 must-have marketing materials you need before you pitch in order to be considered in media places or superstar stages. PamPerryPR.com, where you help you